Hey, it's Joe West from the West Barn with
Mike Shimshack.
Today we have Rashid Williams.
Hello.
Woohoo. Welcome to the show. Before we get started, remember to like, subscribe, hit notifications, tell your friends. Rashid Williams is a drummer. He's been featured in Modern Drummer. Longtime drummer. We're talking years of playing with John Legend, Jill Scott, which he is the MD. He's played with Alicia Keys, a long, long list, tons of people that you would know. He's self-taught, which I really want to get into. What I'd love to sort of do as a focusing lens is, and it goes down to your charity or your movement that you're trying to do, which you've got the hat on here.
Yes.
Little Fat Jimmy, is being an example and letting people see your journey and maybe mentoring them to their conclusion. So
sure.
That's kind of what our podcast is all about, what we hope that it will be for people. So we're glad to have you on. Thank you for being here. You flew in this morning.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
You're in Florida now, right?
Yes, I am in Florida. It's a beautiful place. It's hot, though.
Yeah, humid, hot. Tampa?
Yeah. No, Kissimmee.
Okay. Yeah.
Right outside Orlando. It's close.
Yeah. And that's where you're going for all your tours and heading out of...
Yeah, now that is... MCO is my home airport now.
And where were you before that?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Where in New Jersey?
Like Cherry Hill, which is right outside of Philly.
Yeah.
So like PHL is my home airport.
I was reading up on you a little bit last night, and I liked a couple things
You
about...
didn't find those pictures, did you?
I did find some pictures. We're not going to go into those. They're actually up on the screen right now. I'm going to edit them in post. But I'll use that censored part where all the pixelation is. The entire picture will be pixelated. What I really loved about your story was that you came up through the church, which I love, because I think that good church music is mind-numbingly good. Like there's guys that are... There's some really horrible worship teams, which I grew up in a church that had a horrible worship team. I played drums at my church.
Nice.
I have never played drums, so that goes to show you where the bar was.
Nah, that doesn't mean that's not where the bar
But when you go to a good church, it's like, come on. It's pretty
an experience.
insane.
It's a special thing.
Yeah, I saw this thing with Corey Henry playing B3 at the church. It was like, come on.
Gracious.
But you came up through the church. You're self-taught as a drummer, which is like, you got to have all the rudiments and you've got to figure all that out. You sort of became a drummer that people now, you do travel around the country doing clinics, you know, so it's like you're a person that's on everyone's radar as how to do this technically, but you never really took lessons. We were talking before the broadcast how like you weren't really interested in school, right? School had no purpose for you because you had a straight arrow. You knew where you were going and you were like, why do I need home ec?
School was just a daily appointment. Show up, do your thing and go home.
And there's something about that purpose that is like, it's every musician has a little bit of it, right?
Yeah,
and
sure.
Guys like you and guys like me, hopefully with the school that I have, I feel like our job is to throw a little bit of opportunity and gasoline onto that. And if they're capable of having the full-blown fire version of that, well, then we could be a big part of that, right? We can help them become who they are. But if you don't have someone to do that for you, and if you don't have somebody who came from nothing, built up, taught himself, found a way to succeed, then did succeed at a high level, and then show people his pathway, people will say, hey, that's me. I see me in him.
Well, that's the thing, because everybody's looking for somebody to relate to. Like, that's the life, right? Like, you just look for somebody who is further than where you are, but you can relate to where they've been. So it gives you a little hope that you can actually get there yourself.
When I was a kid in Pittsburgh, I always just felt like the rest of the world was a different, like I couldn't do that. Why would I get to do that?
Yeah.
Like, that's not me. But then someone from my town, or if like you in New Jersey, one of your friends says, hey, I went to high school with that dude and look what he's doing. And I love music. But then it's like all of a sudden, something that seems impossible or not even on the table can be on the table.
Dude, you'd be surprised at how many times with today's level of social media, right? You'd be surprised at how many times I get messages from people I went to school with. And they say, hey, my kid is now trying to play an instrument or trying to dance or trying to sing. And they're like, dude, I thought about you first because I remember you being in school and you were totally uninterested. You had no interest in doing any schoolwork. And my kid's exactly like that. What am I supposed to do?
Well, do you have any kids?
No, not yet.
Okay. So if you have a child, how do you think you're going to be when they're in high school and they've got a bunch of homework to do?
Well, no, I mean, I still have to be an adult, which I'm not fond of that either most of the time. But you know, the thing is, I feel like, number one, part part of me hopes that me and my wife's kids will not be musicians, which is like not gonna happen. Like it's one of those things where my parents.
What do you want them to be? Coal miners?
No, I want them to go the other route of like I would rather them almost go the route of education and become a doctor.
Why?
Lawyer. You know the dream. Be a doctor. Be a lawyer.
Explain it, because we've talked about this on the show where we say like, coal miners don't want their kids to be coal miners.
Right.
Lawyers don't want their kids to be lawyers.
Because we see all the struggles in it.
Because if you do anything great, you realize how hard,
Yes.
next to impossible it is, and you may not do it again if you had the opportunity. So you don't want that for your kids.
And naturally, you want to protect your kids from everything. So you're like, why would I put you on a tour bus where you're going to be on there with 11 stink people and you got to fight through it? You know what I'm saying? Why would I put you in a situation where sometimes you got to argue for your money? Why would I do that to you?
But here's the other side of that coin. And I was really nervous. I've got a 15-year-old about to be 16. And I really struggled for a long time because my whole life I had a lot of passion, and it's sometimes unguided, but I always knew that it was music.
Yeah.
Right?
Same.
And I was waiting for him to have some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for him to show up with something other than a video game that he would get up and do for 10 hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he slowly started to do that. And it is theater. It is playing guitar. So
Nice.
when I look at that now, I'm like, man, I really wish that he was drawn to like environmental law,
Yeah.
Yeah. Or some form of, to be a lawyer or a doctor. But I couldn't imagine being that guy that our friends had pressure from their parents. And it was like, oh, now he's a doctor and he hates himself.
Yeah.
And he's like secretly a guitar player at night. He's
Right.
There's a whole crew of people that these music...
We all know those guys.
Yeah,
we don't know.
They've got the best gear because they got a ton of money, and
The greatest gear.
It's what they do every night from like 5:15 to 1:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
So what you want for your kid is for them to do whatever it is, their purpose that you're talking about.
Essentially, because my thing is, it's number one. Let's be clear. There's no way I'm having a kid and there's not a miniature drum set somewhere in the house. That's just gonna be it. Like boy or girl or both, whatever. There will always be instruments. I grew up in a household with instruments, so I wouldn't dare see it any other way. Not to mention, our kids are gonna go to church, like I did growing up, and like my wife did growing up. It's something
Was
that we're
church your introduction into music?
Yes. So to be 100% honest, both my parents were drummers growing up, my mom and my dad. So they kind of, my oldest sister can sing she'll make us all just cry with her voice. Literally, you'll go into tears.
I have a voice like that too.
That's great. I mean, don't
For all the
sing
wrong
though,
reasons.
because I don't want to cry on
It's for
camera.
all the wrong reasons.
But so my sister, she sings, and then I have another sister who also sings, but dancing was her gift. It was like, you need a dancer, she's the one. And then it was just, I didn't have a choice. Music and instruments was going to be my thing. So I've heard stories, clearly I don't remember this far back, but my dad often tells the stories of me being in church and like being on the drums. They never had to look for me. They always knew if he can make his way to the drum set, that's where he's going to be. So they would go socialize after church is done and then come back an hour later, and I'm still sitting by the drum set because that's just where I wanted to be. And he always tells the story of like they would cut the lights out, and I would just start screaming my lungs out because now I'm like, oh, this means we have to leave. That means I have to leave the drums. Didn't have drums at home, so now, this is the only time I get to be near the drums. So, and this is apparently at like 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old. So I can blame it all on the church. Yeah.
Well, and here's another. I want to ask you a question about, go back to school for a second, but how does a dude learn all the rudiments that seem like, oh, you're not going to learn that without discipline, without the homework? Mm-hmm. And you told us that you're not a fan of homework.
I don't like homework.
How do you get to be Rashid Williams with the technique that you have without all of the practice pads?
A couple things, and none of them are conventional, I guess I could say. First thing is I listened to a lot of music, and I mimicked what I heard, man. Like, church was cool because when you're growing up in church, you still got to learn songs. And here's a funny thing, like we were just talking about, I never equated learning music with homework until like I got older. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't like homework. In school, I used to tell teachers straight up, I'm not doing the homework. Like, you should just keep that. I'm not doing that. But I never made 2 and 2 make 4 in terms of when I'm at church and they tell me, hey, learn this song before rehearsal next week. that's the same as homework. Never put
But
that
what about
together.
like paradiddles, single stroke, double
So
stroke?
paradiddles and all that stuff came about way later, like high school toward the end, when I'm starting to like look at the real drummers. Because I often tell people I didn't know about Dave Weckl and Dennis Chambers and all these great elite Steve Gadds and Cal Hoodas. I didn't know about these guys until I was in like my teenage years, like 16, 17 years old. I only knew about the local greats. Like,
So, dude, you could watch.
yeah, I like people I would like sneak into clubs in Philly and go check out. You know what I mean? Or like if there was a jam session happening and one of my homies was driving, I'll jump in the car with them, and my parents were cool with that. So they knew the people I was going with, and it was all good. But I would just watch these guys. I didn't know that what they were doing was taking the paradiddle and mixing it around the drum kit. All I knew was that I heard this super cool feel. I watched the guy do it. So when I get on the kit, I'm going to do it too. And I'm going to follow whatever happens next. Which is why I always tell people, like in clinics, I'm like, the importance of training your body is so important, because if you can just trust your body, you know everything will work out. If you know where the one is, you know what you're
I get
cut
the
off
sense you have like an extreme high drummer IQ or an athletic ability, like dude that goes out and where maybe Mike and I won't lump Mike into this.
Yeah, come on, man.
Because Mike is clearly
Kinda messed
more
up.
athletic than all of us.
Come on.
But like, let's say like you're going to get it before me and Mike. You know, like you probably have just an athletic ability to get things quickly, and you have a high drummer IQ. So it's like between the two of those, you learning, watching a guy who's doing something, you can maybe take that apart and bring it down in speed and then
we
make
call
it your
that,
own.
in church they tell you that's the God-given gift. And I actually believe that. I believe that certain people on this earth are blessed enough to be exposed to enough things that they find out exactly what makes them tick early in life. For me, drums made me tick early in life.
And you knew it right away.
And I knew it. Dude,
I
mean,
feel bad for people who don't have that.
you know what? I feel bad for people who have it and aren't thankful for it more than I feel bad for the people who don't have it.
Well, and let's make one statement right now that I think we can guarantee is true. If you don't have that, you will never become great. You will never accidentally fall into being one of the biggest songwriters, record producers, drummers, guitar players. If you don't have that thing where it's just like you have a singular purpose, and it goes back to school. I wanted to go back to this. So like what I think we're realizing now is that the model of school that we went through and that is now kind of evolving is maybe not for everyone.
It's not. And so here's a crazier thing. So I have teenagers as nieces and nephews now. Crazy, right? They're doing virtual learning. And the craziest thing is I was visiting my family before I came here up in New Jersey, and my niece, who's heavily into fashion, and she sews, and like she's good, like she's really good. So we recently got her a new tablet, like a really good one, so that she could design her stuff, right? She comes downstairs, she says, I got some stuff to show you. And she's, 15 years old. So I'm like, cool, show me what you got, And she pulls out her tablet, and I'm like, well, when did you do this? And now that she's doing this virtual learning thing, she's still working around her classes and around her work for school. So I'm like, wow, it's crazy where the world is. It could be a very interesting launching pad for the creatives, because now nobody's making you go sit in school for 8 hours. Now, my niece is able to say, cool, my work's done. I'm going to sit here and work on my craft now, whereas my nephew, he's into sports. Football all day. He's 14. He's a freshman in high school. All he's thinking about is girls and football. You know what I'm saying? For him, he's like, all right, let me just get through the classes, because now I got football practice every day, but he's going into football practice way more rested. So even in that,
Because he's sleeping through his classes?
Maybe.
If
If he's anything like his uncle, he's definitely sleeping through his classes.
But I don't understand why he'd be way more rested. Oh, because he's homeschooled.
He's at home.
Got it.
He's at home. It's not like he has to get up at, the crack of dawn and get dressed. These kids are rolling out of bed.
Which is a big deal. At that age,
huge.
that extra hour and a half, it's huge.
Tell me at that age that I could just sit in my room on a laptop?
I did it when I was in high school. I would get up, and it was literally like I was at death's door, where it's like, just let me go, I had a complete secondary pillow and blanket under my bed. So I would get up in the morning and I would walk around my room so that there was footsteps. People knew I was going. And then I would get under the bed. My parents would not even know that I didn't go to school. And I would sleep for the next 2 to 3 hours. When they went to work, I would be under my bed with the springs.
Oh my God.
That's how dedicated to rest.
That's masterful. and let me be very honest in saying that I did not like having to go to school. Didn't like it. However, I was very blessed to have a great high school experience. I mean, down to the assistant principal, who is a great woman, still friends with her to this day. I played on her album the year before she became the assistant principal at my high school. So the first day of school comes in, and I'm like, hey, Bev. And she's like, that's Mrs. Hutton to you now. I'm your new assistant principal. And I just 3 months earlier, at the start of the summer, played her whole entire album. So it was like, once she was there, I was like, oh, I'm good. She knows what I do. She's not looking for me to actually apply myself. She knows I'm a musician. Like, you know what I'm saying?
There's got to be something, though, in the new model of what we consider to be school, which is we get rid of all the elementary school, middle school, and high school. In maybe 50% of the value for it is that it's childcare, right? Because parents go out and they work.
Yeah.
The other half is like, how do we give kids the structure, because there's a certain amount of structure you have to teach someone to be able to just be present as a human being. But like, get rid of the baloney. We need to rethink school especially for people that are certain about if they want to be a bricklayer, let's like gear them towards that earlier rather than waiting until they're in college or sending them to a tech school.
And this is where I always have a conflict in my brain, because I'm like, so the school system as what it is, right? It's been set up this way for ages. Most of these textbooks haven't been changed in years. I think they finally, when Barack Obama got elected, they was like, oh, we got to change history books. It was like the big thing, right? And that was great because it needed to be done. But at the same time, I think that if schools would just tell kids what school is actually for, kids would be okay with that. In today's generation, like, they're super advanced. The internet has made everybody smarter than they really are. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or at least think they are. So I'm like, tell kids the real deal, which is why when I get a chance to talk to kids, I tell them straight up, I hated homework. However, homework does give you discipline. And guess what? You need discipline to survive in today's world.
Right.
If you want to be healthy, you got to have the discipline to get up every day and work out. It is what it is.
If you lack purpose, it's like, okay, when do you find that purpose? And what if your purpose is wrong? Maybe if you think you want to be a marine biologist, you maybe don't want that after you explore it a little bit. So you've got to have that period that's ambiguous. But there's definitely, I see a change in education happening. Going back to purpose, whenever it is that you can find somebody who has a latent version of purpose, like with little fat Jimmy.
Yeah.
Like, if you can give them that, you could be the thing just by giving the iPad to your niece.
Yeah.
Just by her getting that could be the one thing. So you can have a little moment. It could be as simple as giving somebody an iPad or taking them under your wing and letting them come hang with you in the studio for 3 months.
Yep.
You know, and just clean up and mic up
100%.
and grabbing a rough mix here or there.
Just be around it.
You can be the single tiny thing. Somebody was that for me. There was a guy that was that. His name was Greg Vizza. He was that for me. Without him, my whole 30 years is different. Word. And you can be that to somebody. You embrace that. I love that about you, because you are a drummer's drummer. It's like your Drumeo thing was great. All the stuff that I see online, you've got like, man, and the people you're playing with, I mean, these are people that it matters. The drums matter. You're not just 2 and 4. You're everything in between.
Which is a blessing, because, you know, you want to be a drummer that actually can play the drums. You know, you don't, like, the worst feeling in the world, and I think every drummer can relate to this, when you walk into a room, a rehearsal with the artist, man, and the first question they ask is, where are the drums at in the track? It's like, that's what you're listening for.
On the playback?
Yeah, playback. Like, where are the drums at in playback? It's
like you mean being additional drums to the gig?
Yeah, I mean, like, their album is playing and you're just playing along.
Right.
You know, which is why I like working with the people I work with. You know, you go in the room with John Legend, he says, there's no drums in the track, are there? No, cool, Rashid, that's all you? Great, man. Right. Great, keep doing you.
I read something about you last night where you said one of your gigs, either with, I think it's with Jill Scott.
She hates backing tracks.
You don't have even a click.
Nothing.
Right?
Nothing.
That's awesome.
Like, and here's
that's unheard of.
I'm about to pat myself on the back on camera and on on stream. This is live, right? So check it. Last tour, this tour that we just did before COVID hit and we had to go home early. Anyway, we're on tour and the flute player had a patch in his keyboard that was for an intro of a song because he played flute and keys for us, right? And he would have this patch set, BPM. He BPM'd it from rehearsals. So we're like 3 weeks into touring. And I never pay attention. Like, I'm her musical director. My thing is, I know these guys are completely capable. I don't have to, like, micromanage you. You know your job. We all do our jobs daily. One day, we're in sound check, and, you know, I had a, like, emotional moment, and I was like, hey, guys, I just want to tell everybody I really appreciate you guys. Like, you make my job easy. Thank you for that. And he was like, I don't think you know how easy you make our job. And I was like, I don't. Like, I just do mine and do my job. Everybody's job is what it is, whatever. So he then hipped me to the fact that he actually has never changed that BPM. That, like, he saved it in the keyboard and it was at the same BPM every night and it's always on.
And with no click.
No click.
Coming out of another song.
Coming out of another
out
song.
From a crowd, you might you go up 3-4 beats.
But the thing is, I programmed myself so much, and I realized it that day. I was like, man, I'm that programmed. Maybe I should not. Maybe I should shake it up a little bit. And he's like, nah, that's actually great because Jill she was comfortable every night. So it's like, it's a really huge thing to work for an artist that doesn't want the click track, doesn't want to feel like she's boxed in. She wants it to be new every night. She wants it to be fresh.
Yeah. And
still be able to do the job as the timekeeper. Like, that's a really cool feeling.
Well, dude, and to be musical director, I mean, so here's two things. You've been with Legend maybe 7-8 years?
12.
12 years. Okay, so when I was reading was 4 years old.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. And at that point, you had been with Jill Scott for 5 years.
Yeah, so now we're at the 10-year point, I guess, yeah.
How do you do that? People rotate these bands, right?
Pray.
How many other guys have been in those bands as long as you?
So with John, the only other person that's been there, he's actually been there longer than me, is the musical director, Eugene Man Roberts. He got promoted from keyboard player to musical director as I was coming in. So literally, my first rehearsal was his first rehearsal as MD.
Did he bring you in?
No, actually. So I had been out on tour with N.E.R.D, and it was great. And
which I have to know about, by the way.
Oh, dude.
I love that music.
To this day, one of the funnest gigs I've ever done.
Right,
and
we gotta get
those guys are just so cool. Mind you, it was double drummers. So I was out there with Daryl Robinson, and we're doing double drums. Yeah, this is massively cool, right? So I was out there filling in for Boots Green, and by the end of the whole situation, I was so bummed because I had to go home, and Boots was coming back. And literally a week to the day after I got home, John called me himself and said that Adam Blackstone had recommended me to do an audition. Now, Adam Blackstone, if we don't know, is like the Emmy-nominated musical director. He's a very big deal, and he's incredible at what he does beyond any words that anybody can say. Like, you just have to experience him working, and you'll know how great he really is. Like, it's crazy. So John is like, yeah, Adam Blackstone said I should give you a call. You want to come audition? I said, great. I'll come audition. Are you
freaking out because it's John Legend?
Well, yeah. Like, I remember everything about that day. I remember sitting on the sofa at my parents' house, bummed out. And they're being encouraging. They're like, everything's going to work out. See, another call's going to come. Just wait. Be patient. You know what I mean? And then, like, phone rings. Like, what's this number? I don't know this number. Hello? Hey, it's Rashid. Yes, Rashid. It's John Legend. Psst, come on, man. Stop playing with me, man. Psst, boom.
You hung up?
Yeah. I was like, one of my friends are playing a prank on me right now, like, because they know I'm home and this is not right. Next one. Here we go again. Hello? Hey, man, don't hang up. Hey, cool, I'm not. Is this really? Oh, wow. Oh, hey. So now at this point, I'm like getting up to go outside. I don't want to drop the call. I'm like, And, he's just super cool dude, man. He's like, hey, Adam Blackstone said I should give you a call. I'm looking to, get a new drummer. Would you be interested in coming to audition? I said, yes, I would love to audition. He's all right, cool. And he sends me the email with the songs and the slots for auditioning. Cool, I want to be the first one in the door. Point blank and period. I want to be the first one in. This way, I don't got to deal with the nerves of somebody that I just heard audition.
Right.
And I don't have to also deal with, like, that whole day going by, like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, I don't want to still, like, the whole day, I'm like, am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? Give me the 9 a.m. slot. Like, get it out the way early. And, yeah, man, my dad drove me to New York. And I had a license. I was a grown man. But my dad was just always like, hey, man, I'm going to take you.
That's so cool.
Like, I'm going to drive you up there. So we drove to New York. We did the audition. And I got the gig. And literally from that day forward, life has been a whirlwind.
How did he tell you had the gig?
He didn't tell me. His manager did.
So the day went through. They auditioned everyone.
So he came. He was at the audition. And he's a musician. A major key to everything is that he's a musician. First.
Great musician.
An amazing one. First.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So we walk in there, and it's like I'm trying to, like, feel him out. You're in an audition, you want to feel out the guy. It's like, he seems like a cool dude. And mind you, I know the other guys in the band. So, we're all trying to kind of play like we don't really know each other that well. So it's like, we don't want to make it seem weird. So he starts off by, like, playing the piano, and somewhere around the second song, maybe, he's like up and like jamming with us and singing. And I'm like, man, this feels great. Even if I don't get the gig, I still enjoyed this moment. Like, I got to be here. So we play, at the time, Greenlight was coming out. It was right before Evolver. Greenlight was about to come out, or had just come out. And he's like, all right, we played through Greenlight. He's like, all right, cool. Then he goes, you know what? Could you just like solo through the whole entire song for me? I just want to hear you solo. He's like, better yet, let's just go to the end, to the vamp section. Just want to hear what you can do. So I do that, and this is where I thought I didn't get the gig.
This is where church comes in.
Yeah, this is where church comes in, but this is also where I was like, oh, I definitely didn't get the gig because, we go for a little while, and then he just stopped. Just like, all right, cool, thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
He had heard what he needed to do.
I didn't get the gig. I'm going home. I walk out. My dad's in the hallway like the supportive dad. Yeah. He's like, how'd it go? I ain't get it, man. He's like, how you know? I'm like, I don't feel it. Didn't happen. Then the guys that I know come out the room because they know my dad. So they're like, hey, they stuck talking to him. They look at me like, all right, man, hope you get it. I'm like, oh, no, I really don't have it. Because if I had the gig, they would know. And they would just give me like the...
You killed it.
Give me the wink and the thumbs up, right? So they gave me nothing. No emotion, no nothing. And then that was a Saturday. I think that Monday or Tuesday morning. His manager called me. It's so simple. Yo, what's up, man? You got the gig, kid. So we going to be in touch. It's like,
and you were like, oh, thanks a lot. And then it was just like... I was jumping on couch.
Yeah, I was like, thanks. Hung up the call.
And who's the first person you told about it?
I feel like maybe my mom, because my mom does a lot of management for me. Like, I don't do any major decision in life without talking to my parents first. Like, my dad, cool. We call my dad the silent partner, because he only talks like a little bit, but what he says is everything. So my mom is the one that's super hands-on. Like, I'm like, Mom, I need you to review some paperwork. I need to talk to this person. That she's like, great, I'm on it. And my dad is the one that, like, he'll listen to everything. And then I'll be like, all right, man, what you got? And he'll say, like, 6 words that just floor you. It's like, oh, didn't think about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like I told them first because I was still living in their house at the time. So I probably got out of bed, if I got the call early, got out of bed and found them and was like, yo, I got the gig.
This is the great thing about being in the music business because it is like on your couch, like nothing going on.
Yeah.
John Legend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like a summer of no gigs and then Jill Scott.
Something crazy happens.
And so 2 things. You are, in order to be on tour with anyone for 12 years, you can't be an asshole. You're not. We know this about you because how can you be in a band? How do you stay in a band for 12 years and be that guy?
Well, I tell you what,
you got to be easy.
I tell you what, though. The thing is, you can't be easy because you'll get taken advantage of. Because while the artist is great, right? He has a slew of people under him who are going to try to take all your money, who are going to try to pay you less, who are going to try to just treat you not the way you want to be treated. They're going to try to get you to share rooms. Like, my first show, I walk in and they're like, yeah, you're sharing a room with your drum tech. I was like, what? But at the time, I'm like, gotta be easy. Play along. Right. Yeah. And then later I found out, like, what I should have did was put my foot down and said, I'm not doing that. Because Mind you, it only lasted for 2 or 3 nights because I was just like, this isn't going to work, guys. There's no way you're telling me everybody. And
That's
it was
the other thing about musicians. It's like, I don't have anything going on my couch, and then 2 gigs. Yeah, man, this is not going to work.
It's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. I know I was just home hoping for a gig, but now that I'm out here, I don't like the arrangement. Screw this. Screw you. Nah, so what I found out was like, you just have to pick your spots.
Pick your spots.
And, you know, it goes.
Okay, so maybe it's not that you're it's just, you can't just be a mess. You got to figure out how to fit in, because being in a band for 12 years is not an accident.
Well, being in a band for 12 years shows me that, one, I can confirm that I'm very secure in who I am. That comes from the way I was raised, the way I was taught. My parents raised me on 2 basic principles, character and integrity. You stick to those 2 principles, either people are going to love you or they're going to hate you. Right. And guess what? Whichever one it is, you can be okay with it, because you can walk away and say, I did my part as a human being. The other part of all of this is 12 years later, you find out that me being able to play a set of drums is only a small percentage. The fact that I've helped push cases before, not because I had to, just because I was like, I want to learn every part of this. So, you know what? Load out. I'm going to help push cases tonight. And that's kind of fun. I'm going to do it tomorrow night, too. I remember production managers looking at me like, dude, are you serious? Like, the rest of the band's on the bus. Like, you don't have to. I'm like, dude, I just want to learn it. Be a likable guy. Be a guy who's not just, you know.
And how much of that, when you say it's a small sliver, but it's an essential. It's 100% of why you're there. Mm-hmm. But it's maybe in the grand scheme of things, it's a sliver of the ecosystem that makes you stick around.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about, it's like the hang, it's being cool. We talk about this all the time. Being able to be that guy that is like, not ever an issue, but stands up for himself.
Right.
But it's like, that's a learned behavior.
Like, you can't
and that's
be
what
late
you're doing
every day.
That's what you're doing when you're mentoring these people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I tell kids, like, you can't be late every day, then complain about if the bus leaves late because of somebody else.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Like, you have to practice what you preach. You have to be the example, even if you're not the example in that moment. Because guess what? What I learned about touring,
whenever you blow it.
Yeah, because my thing is like, I'm one who, if I screw up, I'm going to, hey man, sorry I messed up. My bad. Well, what do we have to do to fix it? And even more so, second or third show with John, I play a song out of the set list. It was, and mind you, it's like every drummer's worst nightmare. It was a song where I did this super cool fill. And John, it was his call for me to do this because he was excited he had a new drummer. So it was like, we're going to use this guy. It was a song, it was like the count off happens and I started all off and I got this super killer fill and the band comes in at the end of my 2-bar fill. So the click track starts and I do the super killer fill, wrong song. Luckily, the band followed me and we all just played the song.
Oh, wow.
John's thing was everybody makes mistakes. And then he took shots at me about it. He was like, the next night in the prayer circle, he's like, so Rashid, are we playing the set list tonight or are we playing? And the thing is, because as soon as the show ended, I went to the musical director first, said, yo, my bad. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going home tomorrow. So I just wanted to make sure I fessed up. I take full advantage, like full responsibility and not take advantage of the situation. Went up to John. Yo, man, I'm so sorry, man. I apologize. That was definitely on me. The track was right. The start of the song was right. I messed up. He was like, yo, thanks for owning it. Hey, man, I'm always going to own it.
Were there music tracks for the other song?
Yeah. The thing is, luckily, once the musical director, and this starts, so the MD man, he's like, we're like brothers. We've known each other since we were teenagers. So luckily, he hears me doing his fill. He stopped. You know?
Dude, how good of a band is that? Because it's 2-bar fill.
2-bar fill.
I don't know what the tempo is, but that's not a lot of time.
It was like
it's
one of these.
1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3. So those dudes are so good that by 3 of the first measure, they're like, oh man, we need to abort.
Oh, he heard it. He was like, abort. Boom. Okay, we're going with Rashid, apparently. Let's just play, because the thing is, and it was an MTV special, so to this day, if somebody catches this MTV special in Rome, test me on this. John Legend in Rome, it's 2008. John Legend in Rome. When we play Heaven Only Knows, The screen does not say that name because we were not supposed to play that song right there.
I'm going to find it on YouTube and I'll put it in the description.
Please do. And there's a fill right at the top. It's like...
Tell me, on playback, does the track feel empty or did they post the tracks in?
Well, the thing is, because it was just an open drum fill, it was like, and me and Man, we have a great relationship to the point where he'll be like, yo, how many clicks you want at the top? Tell me what you need. And I'm like, all right, just give me 2 clicks at the top and then just give me all the clicks because the fill's not going to change. And then, put the slate in when the band's about to come in. We're good. So nothing, it was just drums. Like, it's literally...
But when that aired, did they post-produce the tracks that were supposed to be in that song in it, or was it just
Oh, no. They played it. They let it air exactly the way we played it.
As the drummer, when you listen to that, does it feel empty without the tracks, is my question.
No.
Makes you wonder, like, do we really need to be like,
well, the thing
have everything
is,
stemmed out on live venue shows?
You know what? It was an ode to the musical director, because I think every great musical director, what makes them great is that they know how to make a show like bulletproof, meaning if all the computers crash, the crowd can't know that we just lost all the computers. And furthermore, if I have to stop the track at some point, nobody can know what happened.
Do you control the tracks?
No, the musical director does. And I'll give you, an even greater story, and this goes to show like veteran lifestyle, right? We opened for Sade for a tour, right? So, I might get in trouble for saying this. It doesn't matter. Who cares? We're opening for Sade. This is 2011. This is like her big comeback tour, right? And John Legend is opening. One night, I wanted to stand by like one side of the stage, and they had all the guitar amps on the side of the stage because their stage is like super clean and like beautiful set. And dude, I've never heard such great tone in my life from a guitar. Like the tone that these guys had on their distortion, I'm sitting there like, wow, this is the top. Veterans. Dude, everything was in Pro Tools. So what they were playing was just in case. But it was like,
oh, wow.
Wait a minute. Their tone is that good just in case?
Yeah.
Because if the Pro Tools ended, you would never know. You could not tell the difference.
Right.
Like, it was that, like, seamless, and it's just like, okay, these guys are vets. Like, these guys are true vets, because we want it to be perfect every night. We want the crowd to get it every night.
We were hanging out last year at the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. We were watching it over at Jerry Golden's house. And I think I remember you saying, did you play a big football event like that?
We did the Super Bowl years and years and years ago. But we did like an outside party kind of vibe.
Oh, okay. I was curious because I've always heard that those, like, when they do big shows like that the only thing live is the vocal.
Right? Yeah. From what I know, it's the same, yeah.
I heard that they
pre-record everything.
They pre-record the band during rehearsal on that same stage. It's not like it's a studio thing.
They pre-record the band a few times.
And then they know their time, and then it's just a lead vocal.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so Jill Scott, how do you tour with John Legend and Jill Scott? What if they tour in the same period of time?
Man, every drummer should be envious of me. I have the perfect world. We call it tour mojo. It's like they never tour at the same time. It's the weirdest, coolest thing.
You've been with both of those
10 years at least.
10 years overlapping.
And not to say I've never missed a show of either one of them. I have. You know what I'm saying? And luckily, I got some really great friends that I can call on who show up and do the gigs, and the artists love who I call. But, dude, like, very few and far between moments do I have to choose.
That's wild.
It's crazy. I tell you, I'm blessed, man.
Tell me. Go ahead, Mikey.
I got to know how the N.E.R.D. stuff came along.
So let's talk about N.E.R.D. N.E.R.D., Darryl Robinson calls me, hey, man, Boots needs to go home for a little bit, so you want to come out? And because, I'm the young guy in the crew. So he's like, yo, young boy, we giving you a chance. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. Like, come on, let's go. I was like, I'm not going to let you down, man, because, it's my chance. So he's like, all right, I'm in some part of Philly, like a different side of Philly. And he was like, I'm at the hotel because they were in town. He was like, I'm at the hotel, yo, come through. We'll talk through the stuff because we don't have time for a rehearsal. And when it's time for you to go out, basically you're going in cold. So I was like, all right, cool. So I go to his hotel room and we like talk through the whole show. And he has a recording on and a video. He's like, all right, so because when I say two drummers, Boots and Darryl orchestrated this thing perfectly. So there were certain songs where the drums were looped and stacked, and these guys were playing separate parts. So it wasn't like you just go in there and play whatever you want. No, you have to play your part. So he's running through everything with me. Great. Then they had a show at Madison Square Garden, and we were flying out of New York that night after the show. So I watched Boots play that show at Madison Square Garden, and that was like my confirmation of everything me and Daryl talked about. Had the recording, we get to London, and we go straight into a show. Like straight, dude, when I tell you like nervous is not even the word, because it's N.E.R.D, so the music is really fun, but you can also screw it up because you got to know your parts. And there's no talk back on stage at this point. Like, I'm looking at Daryl for cues, like, am I right? And he's like, yeah, you know, he's like yelling across the stage, like, yeah, you got it, you good. And dude, when I tell you that night, Pharrell, like, after we do like on the song Spaz, there's a drum solo section at the end that they did just for the drummers. Go back and forth for like however many bars, and then we all in together. After that, Pharrell came up to the drums and like shook my hand and gave me like the nod.
Wow.
And I was like, whew, all right, just don't screw up for the rest of the show.
Well,
if I can make it through this,
so
I'm
cool.
good.
There's something in that story that I like, which is like, so many people will be like, I'm not doing it because the risk of failure is too high.
But now here's the thing now. Keep in mind, my life, I feel like, has been built on put up or shut up. Like, I don't do homework in school, but the teacher says, are you going to pass the class? Yes, I'm going to pass the class. We were just talking about it. 25% of my grade is going to be homework. So that means I have to ace everything else because I'm not doing homework. So if I could just get a C, I'll pass. And basically, it turned into the realization that, okay, you got to show up. And I work great under pressure.
But that's not easy. There's so many people that are so afraid of being revealed as a total failure.
Well, I tell you what, when you grow up in church,
That's a great
that
place.
changes everything. Church, let me tell you, church, I don't care what anybody says. Church breeds some of the best musicians because of the fact that you have to show up. And it's not based on anything other than feel.
Once you get a couple of those like treacherous moments and you're like, okay, that worked out.
Yeah, my
You have
dad
the confidence to
used
do
to kick me off the drums. So I've been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, at church drummers, I'm young. I'm barely touching the foot pedal, and I'm like falling behind the beat. My dad would come over there quick. Get up, get up, get up. And like, I'm over just crying, like, oh, my dad kicked me off. That's all part of the growth. You know what I'm saying? To the point where the first goal was just don't get kicked off the drums.
I don't know that that's as natural as we think it is. But you will find that people that are really successful have got that DNA where it's like, you know what, I haven't done that before, but I'll give it a shot.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, I think
Watch one show in
that's what
New
makes
York
the
at the
coolness.
Garden, you know, maybe one of the most epic venues ever.
It's that Mark Cuban. I saw this thing with Mark Cuban where he, early on before he sold his company for $6 billion, whatever, he said that he would get calls. He was a computer programmer. And so he'd get calls saying, you know, do you know how to program in C++? He's like, of course.
And had no idea.
No idea. He would just stay up all night reading books, and he's like, he would just take a good gig. You took the gig, and you figured it out.
In the music economy or ecosystem, if you say no to something, you've got no one to blame but yourself.
100%, because my thing is, and this
You'll stay on the couch.
Goes back to like that security in yourself. It's like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, worst that can happen is that I fail and I really ruined an opportunity. Maybe I've ruined my name here, but it's like, you know what? You got 20 years of playing drums that says you're not going to do that.
But here's the scary thing, though. If you fail boldly, the chance will come back around. Yeah. If you fail timidly, you probably never see that opportunity again.
Confidence is everything, man.
Dude, and
you
it's
fail
so
with
weird.
confidence, and it's like
so weird. Because
right,
we look at people with confidence that suck, and we're like, we don't understand this, but they keep getting opportunities. How do they keep getting a chance? But you know, the thing is, when we look back, and it's like, somebody said that about me at one point. Somebody said Rashid sucks, but this kid is like relentless. He will not give up. And it's
not for long.
But the thing is, who knows how long really is? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I meet kids all the time, like young drummers, man, they crack me up, dude. They're like, hey, man, what's up? I'm 15 years old and, you know, looking for an endorsement. And, you know, and I'm like.
And a manager. He
dude,
wants a manager.
Finish high school, man. like, and I'm like, finish high school, do your homework.
Do your homework.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, telling kids that. But
dude, I did this session. This artist wanted to work with me. And I was just like, it doesn't make sense, you know, for her or for me.
Yeah.
Her manager kept calling me. And so we took a meeting, and she came to this meeting with a manager, a stylist, a music guru, just like, you know.
Dude.
She had a staff of people that came in, and they were talking to me to do this record. And I said, what are you doing? Like, you know how many managers I have? One. I'm my own manager. I have a lawyer that I sub work out to when I need a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing with
Well,
five
you know what?
people?
That's the new thing. Hey guys, I'm looking for a hairstylist. I'm looking for a wardrobe. I'm looking for everything, styling. I want my nails done and all. So
people
hit me up. Hit his link up.
People, do you have a manager?
My mom.
Okay.
To this day, like I still.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm talking like before I flew here, I'm sitting with my mom having family time, and she's like, "So, you ready for the Mapex stuff?" Yes. What are you gonna do? Oh, well, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, we got to do that. Cool. So you got everything you need? Need me to do anything? Nope. I think we're good. Like to this day, when I need an invoice drawn up, hey, I send my mom a message with all the details.
What you're describing is people need something to manage. Managers don't bring you work, they manage your work.
Yes.
Endorsements don't come to you
because you got to do the work, though.
Because all of your famous people that you have on your wall have endorsements, and so if you get an endorsement, you're like them. Endorsements happen because you bring enough value to the table that people say, hey, I want to put my drumsticks or drums in front of that dude.
110%. And I tell people all the time, listen to the Thomas Pridgeon way of living. Thomas is an amazing guy. Like, I don't know, people look at his drumming, that's what's up, but I've had conversations with him. I'm like, man, he's just a really nice guy. You're a good guy. You can be a jerk when you need to be, but you're a really good guy. And something he said that stuck is, man, when all I cared about was money and hype, I had no money and I had no hype. Mm-hmm. When I just played drums because I love drums, I won Grammys.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm like, dude, if these kids could just get that, like, dude, shut up and play.
You need to do the work.
Just shut up and play, man. Do the grind.
You got to have enough stuff that people can have an opinion about it.
But the thing is, if you notice the younger guys, this is why nobody can appreciate what they have. They didn't work for it. Right. It's all based on this idea of like, I'm entitled to this versus, nah, man, my job is just to try my hardest to do the industry justice, to do the craft justice. And then maybe the craft will reward me for investing so much time and so much energy into it. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to, like you said, of just understanding your purpose. My purpose wasn't to be endorsed. Endorsed is just a benefit.
It's a consequence of your purpose.
Hey, maybe.
It's a consequence of your purpose.
Because it comes with pressure. It comes with requirements. You know what I'm saying?
It's a byproduct of it. It's like I told Mike, we were talking with somebody, and I said, how many times have you stepped over a $100 bill in a parking lot? Be a $100 bill. Let your music, let your playing, let your songs, let your production, let your mixes be $100 bills sitting on the ground. People will not step over them for long.
And the crazy thing is, to your point that you just made, even if the $100 bill is balled up, beat up, old, guess what? Somebody still wants it. It still has the same value it did. So regardless of what you go through, and that's what I said, like, man, I can't even, we don't have enough time. In the next 3 days.
I saw this one quote from this guy, and it was so good. It was like, focus on creating value. Money is a natural consequence of creating value for other people.
And the crazy thing is, value is most times just you being you. Yeah. And people
finding out who you are.
Find out who you are, because if you're trying to be somebody else, that's not your value, that's theirs.
And you'll never be that.
You'll never, ever be that. The idea is you wake up every day on the journey of self. Find self, find self, find self.
You're one of those drummers that when you play, you know it's you.
But the thing is, I appreciate that because I hope so. But I'm about to do a shameless plug. So I'm working on my album, right? That I've been working on for years, like super years. And every time I go back to working on it, like COVID gave me the time to be at home, right? And didn't plan on it, but gave me time to be at home. So every time I go back to work on it, I always change the angle, the gear, because I'm like, I'm still trying to, at one point at least, I was still trying to do what I thought people wanted to hear from me. So I'm thinking, just do the clinic stuff. That's what people want to hear. But in reality, the whole time I was like, no, I should just give people the honest version of me, which means that every track doesn't even have live drums. That's like the trueness of it, right? So as I'm going through this journey of like working on this music, and it's like every day it's a test, because it's like, okay, be you, because the value is in you. And then when I let people hear some of the stuff, they're just like, wow, we love it. And I'm like, who would have thought? You didn't ask me about the drums. You didn't ask me, well, what drums did you play on this? You didn't ask me, dude, did you do this fill over top of this? No, it was just, this is great. Yeah. It's like, man, that value thing, man, and that's a whole situation.
When you started getting endorsements, like, why did you choose the gear you chose?
So it started with Mapex. And I was in London with Eric Roberson, and they had just got in a Coffee Burst Orion kit. I was 18, 17, something like that. And we were playing Jazz Cafe. They had just got a brand new kit. It was still in the box when I walked in the venue. And the sound guy was like, dude, lucky you. You get to take them out the box and set them up. We just got these in. And I was like, really? Because I'm still a drum geek. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love fresh drums. I love the smell of them. So I take them out, and I played that kit, and it changed everything. Because one thing I love about Mapex drums is that you can feel the shells. Like, you play some drums that are a little stale. And when you play them, even if they have good tone, you can't feel them. Like, there's no resonance or vibration that actually hits you. Yeah. So with those drums, that Orion kit, I felt everything. It was like, whoa, yeah, I like this. So I get back to my hotel room, and I used a calling card because this was a long time ago. This is before cell phones were calling, at least without spending $1 million. Like, cell phones weren't calling all the way here. So used my calling card. I called my mom, and I said, hey, Mom, so I really want to endorse these drums. Like, I really want to be a part of this, like, this thing, this Mapex thing. And my mom got in contact with a guy named Joe Hibbs.
Oh, yeah.
And convinced Joe that I was worth his time, literally. And Joe called Daryl Robinson, and he called Eric Tribbett, because they were both Philly guys that knew me, and was like, hey, this kid Rashid. They were like, oh, he's family. Bring him on in. And it became a full circle thing. But from that day forward, those drums, to this day, Mapex drums are the only drums I obviously felt that from. Every other drum kit I play is like,
so that's the only kit that you have endorsed over the years?
Only one. Wow. The only one.
How many years now?
I'm about to tell my age. It's been like 15, 16 years, something like that. Somewhere around there.
The best snare
maybe
drum.
17.
The best snare drum I've ever heard was a Mapex snare.
Do you remember what it was?
I think it was a Black Beauty-ish type thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is there a model that's kind of modeled after Black Beauty?
Now, it's not kind of like the Black Beauty, but there is a snare that's my favorite snare as well that was all black, and it was the solid steel. It only came out for a little bit of time, but that snare sang like nobody's business. I did one session with my friend Neoshi Jackson, and he had a Mapex drum kit, and it's the best sound snare drum I've ever heard. Hands down.
I like that you reached out to them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're talking about endorsements, that's the ultimate endorsement, right?
I mean,
it's like,
I can't take full credit. My mom definitely did.
Well, you didn't know anybody there.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, is there a way that I could play this kit all the time?
Yeah, no, she definitely reached out to, like, whatever the link on the website was, and somehow got in touch with Joe and was like, basically, he told me after the fact, because by the time I got back to my hotel that day, I had a piece of paper with a fax under my hotel room door, and I had a voicemail on the hotel phone from Joe. So basically, he was like, your mom basically made it so that if I wasn't going to sign you, like, I would be making the hugest mistake.
Were you playing with anyone really big at the time?
I was playing with Eric Roberson at the time. And at the time, Eric Roberson, while he was big, yes, he's an independent artist that just did a great job at promoting himself.
So this is before John Legend?
Way before. This is years and years before. So I was with Eric Roberson, and I was just about to start the Guapole gig. And even with Guapole, she had a hit song in the movie, and she had a really great album out. But in terms of, like, the John Legend fame, so to speak, not to compare, but, like, on that level, we weren't playing arenas. Like, we were playing small clubs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a big testament to Joe. I mean, to see, maybe without the paper without the numbers that maybe justify something, but buying into a person.
He saw
for him, it paid off.
He saw something I barely saw myself. Yeah. That was the crazy thing. It's like Joe said something to me years and years, like in one of our just off topic, probably 5 or 6 in the morning conversations. He said the idea is to surround yourself with people who believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And I was like, oh, I like that. Because real talk, he believed in me more than I believed in myself. And it showed daily in our conversations.
I've got a lot of friends that work at companies, and they're all musicians, number one, right? And they're running these companies, and they almost feel like a mission statement that if they don't provide the resources for people to play the music, well, then we can't change the world, because music is an integral part of everyday life.
Yeah, it's a scary balance, man.
Like, they feel committed. It's not just like moving prescription drugs, right?
It's nothing. It's
These
nothing
guys,
like
when you go to NAMM, which is the big conference where there's 100,000 people in Anaheim, you go around that room, and all those guys, they're musicians.
Yeah.
It's not like us and them. It's not like we're there and the agents are there, right? It's like they are us. So
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah.
cool thing. And it's good to find a company that believes. And I'm glad that, like, it makes me feel good that a company took a chance on somebody and that somebody blew up.
Well, the thing is, it makes me feel good that not only did they take, or Joe and the company said, hey, we're going to take a chance on you, but they actually followed through with every single thing. You know what I'm saying? Within a week of that, we were on the phone and Joe was like, what sticks do you want to play? Let's get you fully laced up. Like, let's get you taken care of.
Yeah.
So that we
And they
can
don't make sticks, right?
help push you. No, they don't. And it was like he was calling around making calls for me.
Yeah, that's
like,
cool.
hey, I got this kid, Rashid Williams. He's going to be great. Like, just don't ask me why, don't ask me how. He's going to be great. And he believes so, man, I tell you, certain people in this world, you just can't put quite the real definition of them. He's one of those people. You really can't define him. He just was who he is.
Very cool.
Can you tell me real quick, because I don't really understand the role of a musical director in a band. Is Nunzio still playing with Jill Scott? You know Nunzio, the guitar player? Years ago, Nunzio, a guy, a buddy of mine from New York, little Italian dude, awesome player. He was the only dude. The band was all black, and they were killing it, like at the level that white dudes
that's
can't
one
kill
of the
it.
hardest things to do. The one white guy in the band is the hardest thing to do. I'm telling you.
Well, you know that dude is one of the most swinging, awesome players if he's hanging with those
Well,
guys.
that's the thing. Yeah, if you can make it into, and that's to be honest, if you can make it into any Jill Scott band, you're doing it. Yeah. Like, she is not easy.
What's that
on
like,
musicians.
though? What's your responsibilities as musical director?
I tell you what, it's like being a football coach. If you win, you clap for your team. If you lose, you take all the hits for your team. And Jill is great at allowing me to do my job. Meaning, if there's a spot of the show that needs something musically, I'm allowed to say, hey, we need to do this. You know, she usually, so to give, the best way to give my job is to give the process. We know there's a tour coming up. Me and Jill are on the phone 2, 3, 4 months in advance.
Are you deciding the size of the band?
We're talking everything. We're talking.
So maybe, hey, we need to bring out another guitar player.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Rashid, here are my ideas. Like, and sometimes they're great ideas, and sometimes it's like, I'm not sure we'll be able to do that, but we'll see. So we're talking months in advance, right? Like, we're on the phone constantly. And what I do that I don't know about all musical directors, a little something I learned from Adam Blackstone, is I'm asking her what she's listening to. Yo, what music you listening to right now? Like, send me some links to what you got going on in your ears so I can know what wavelength she's on. So that I can, because like one year Jill said, I want a Wu-Tang meet Cirque du Soleil. What? Who? How? What? Like, how do you even do that? But what I realized was that she was listening to a lot of Wu-Tang and she had just went to a Cirque du Soleil show. Cool, makes perfect sense now. That's why she's saying that.
So you're in charge of like what the stage actually looks like too?
Not what it looks like, but I'll give you a fun fact. This last tour, I called the band, I called lights and video, the whole tour. So from my talk back, Mike, I was calling video cues, lighting cues, and band cues.
Like, what does that mean? Like, how do you
means-
call a cue?
I hope some of my guys hear this so that they can all confirm this. This is great. It's like literally all the count-offs because we don't have clicks. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And whoever starts the song starts the song. And the video, give me them clouds because we need clouds in the back. Give me the clouds. And the clouds start easing in. Dude, I wish I was lying to you.
Slow the clouds down.
Dude, her manager came to the show. Her manager came to a show. And, you know, nobody knows what goes on. You know, like the crowd doesn't know that this is happening.
Where's your talk back, Mike? How are you talking?
It's literally to like my left. So I have buttons on the floor that I can push to talk to the band. I can push and only talk to Jill, or I can push and talk to all three, everybody. Just, you know. Oh, wow. So the lighting guy hears everything I say to the band. The monitor guy hears everything I say to everybody. So, and the front of house guy has a small speaker. So, you know, you got to watch what you say most times in that regard because the crowd is like around them and you say the wrong thing, get in trouble. But it's funny, her manager was at a show and Jill, she's facing the crowd. She's not thinking about this. What goes on, this is our job to make sure that she ain't got to worry about none of this. So he's with the front of house guy, so he hears everything I say. End of the night, we're talking to Jill. She's like, how was it? Was it cool? I'm like, no, yo, you killed it. It was great, you know, because it really was a great show. And she was like, but because we do edits throughout the tour. She was like, but that new spot, I couldn't see the video. I was like, I had you. Like, I made sure the video was on point. And the manager was like, yo, Rashid called the whole entire show. Like, everything was from his talkback mic. Like, I mean, literally down to the smallest little detail, because she had wardrobe changes. We had band moments. And when I tell you her show is a vibe, I mean, like, we could be playing and I could be like, yo, she needs a couple more minutes. Yo, let me get a guitar solo. The guitar player was Sean. Like, yo, let me get a guitar. Let's go out there, bro. Step out there. Hey, lighting. We going to have him on the front of the stage. Give him some lights. Give him a spot. Like, I'm literally calling this stuff as it's happening.
Is that common for a music director?
No.
Okay.
That's the most uncommon thing, the most unorthodox arrangement. But what I can tell you is it makes me better because I understand everything that goes on now. And when I'm like sitting up there, the thing is, Jill said when I first got the gig as musical director, when she asked me to be her musical director, she said, so my only thing is I want to gain a musical director, but I don't want to lose my drummer because it's a big job, and to do both can be crazy. So the beauty of it is I've learned how to be the drummer and still focus on everything else that's going on and never let the drummer slack.
It's got to be tough for the first 10 shows.
Oh,
and then it's like you start to get muscle memory of it, right?
Whole first tour, I was like, my head was spinning every day.
Well, if you want it, at the end of the night, people either like the show or they don't.
Yeah.
So if you have to accept accountability, there's a version of that where it's like, hey, I'll just make sure I do it myself.
Yeah, but the thing is, that can get dangerous too, because once you start doing it yourself, if you screw up, it's all on you. You know what I mean? So with her gig, I literally, this past tour, like, you got to meet with the lighting guys. That happens every year. You got to sit down and say creatively. And me and her production manager, Victor, we were able to really build her show with the way she wanted it. So Vic was great, man. He had a spreadsheet, and it was like all the songs, and then we had what was going on lighting-wise on those songs, what colors she wanted, what video content was going to be on the screen, and then we would make edits as we go. Us three, we would get together before or after rehearsals, and we just write little notes in to the point where by the end of the rehearsal stretch, everything was on that spreadsheet.
And this is tough without a click, because if you have a click, well, then you can lock video and lighting cues to click.
Here's a fun thing.
You can't do that. You don't play to a click.
We did it. We figured it out. I triggered video off of a machine that nobody would ever guess, and I'm not telling the secrets. But a monitor guy that we had actually one day said, I think I know a way that you can run time code. And I was like, dude, let's do it. And we ran time code. Mainly for the intro and like one other song, because the way the intro... Oh, so fun fact. This last tour, we just did her whole first album. So intro to last song, we did the whole entire first album. And legit, we were able to... Because the intro is timed the way the video hits it. So the whole big question, of course, lighting guy comes up to you, video guy comes to you. Hey, man, so how do we know when? And no offense to lighting guys, but they do lights. I love a lighting guy and a video guy who learn the songs, but most don't. Because they're going to cue it when it's supposed to, or make sure a time code just runs. Right. So I'm like, when she says such and such, that's when that video comes in. They're looking at me like, that's not going to work. Like, this is what we're waiting for? So one day, Monitor World says, hey, I think I got away. My man Kev, he says, hey, I think I got away. And I was like, all right, everybody stop. We're taking 30. Let's talk. And we figured it out. So that video was on every night.
Interesting. That's a testament to your time.
That's a testament
Without
to
a click,
having a great team. Because to
but
have
still,
a monitor
so you have a great
engineer-
team and you're playing 4 beats faster, those aren't going to work,
Let me
right?
tell you something, but that's just being a drummer. I'm talking about that aspect of like being able to tell a lighting guy, hey, man, his name was Max. He was great. Hey, man, you ready? And I see the thumbs up and know that everything's going to be right. Like, that is a thing.
Now, when you say it's the time code, I assume the time code is like, okay, time code starts, and then at time code 1 minute, 1 second, 15 frames, lights change. if you're not playing to a click,
Hey man, we got secrets out here, man, and it works.
you're not gonna tell us.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Listen, that might be the one thing that keeps my job. So somebody else gonna send an email like, "Hey, I know how to do the same thing he did."
We're running out of time, but I want to ask you, when you have to fire people, how does that go? Because that's a musical director's job, right?
Yeah, it is. And sometimes you get an artist who's ready to do it themselves. Jill will definitely call you herself, but I still have to make a phone call because it's still my responsibility to some extent. So how do I do it? It's very simple. Give them the reason why, the honest reason why, not the BS. Give them the real reason why. Hey, the real reason is the artist just wants to change, man. Or the real reason is, they want to go in a direction that provokes them to be more of this or more of that. And that's just not your wheelhouse, or that's just not what you've shown us. And it's not any downplay to you, but it's just time to make a change. And all artists make changes.
You dread that?
Yeah, mainly because of the inner part of it. Like, I'm taking money out of somebody's pocket, essentially, and I don't want to do that. They got families,
Well,
too.
that's the beauty of music. You go from being at the garden to being on your couch.
Yeah.
With no prospects.
Yep, and not knowing if your
Awesome.
phone's going to
That
ring or
sucks,
if it's
man.
not going to ring or what's going to happen.
No unemployment, no whatever, weekly stipend of anything.
Listen,
It's like,
that's why it's so important. COVID-19 hit, and I tell you what, I've been more blessed through COVID-19, probably because as soon as we came home, so there's always this fun thing everybody knows about me. I don't put drums in my house. It's always a thing, right? It's like, people ask all the time, is it true? Do you really not put drums in your house? Oh, you mean you're endorsed and you don't have to? I'm like, dude, there's a drums in a closet somewhere, but they're not set up. They're stacked up or still in boxes, right? So we, after COVID hit, and I was like, all right, let's act fast. I got to build a small studio in the house. It means I got to set up drums. That means I got to do this, that. And I'm going down the list. Within like 2 weeks, maybe, I was set up. I was like, all right, we're good, right? Because I didn't let the shock take over. Because if you let the shock take over, you're going to miss it. And it's guys I know that just got a studio set up last week, literally. Whereas I'm like, my studio was already up and running, and I was playing for streaming shows and working within the first month that all of this happened. So it was like, dude, yeah, our job is unpredictable, but if we've learned anything is, dude, just be prepared and be ready to adjust.
Yeah.
Like, you have to adjust. You cannot make it in this industry if you can't adjust to what's happening.
yeah, opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, and then, it's one of those things where some people are cut out for it and some people aren't.
So if people want to be like the Little Fat Jimmy, like if they want to, is that a website? How is your mentoring working? How could people get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way is Instagram, to be totally honest. Easiest way is Instagram, or send me an email at littlefatjimmy@gmail.com. That's another great way to do it.
Do you have a website?
Yes, littlefatjimmy.com. But
Okay.
only, you can send messages through it, but only our merch is on there.
So we'll put it all down in the description. Are you also doing
Yeah.
tracks like recorded at your home for custom projects?
Yeah. I'm
they can
doing
hit you up
that,
about
and contrary to popular belief, I'll just say this. People should take the time. I get a lot of people that say, oh, I didn't think I could afford you, or, oh, I didn't think you'd be interested, or, oh. And it's like, until you hit me up and we have a conversation, like, don't do that. If you are interested in it and you want my sound, don't just hit me because you want a drummer. You could get anybody. Think about what the sound needs to be. And if you want my sound, then by all means, reach out. I've done projects for free, and I've done projects for a lot of money.
I love that you're doing it. I love that that's part of a lot of people. Once they get successful, they're like, "Oh, that's all behind me now. All the other parts." But you're still plugged into people and helping them with their process. So.
Those people are idiots. I'm gonna say that, man, because it's like, dude, who are we? Like, we're people, man. Like, I could have it all today and lose it all tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, let's be for real about it. And I think every person does that, and that's what separates those who understand their purpose and those who don't. Because, it's all relative.
Well, thank you for sharing your purpose with us and hanging with us. It's been
Thank you for
great
having me.
hang. I
It's
want to
great
thank
to be here.
Jerry
Thank
and
you.
Matt for the connection to get you on. And you flew in to do some work in Nashville, and you're flying back out. But we're glad you made time for us.
I flew
right from
in
the
to
airport.
create havoc at Mapex Drums headquarters.
Awesome.
And that's what I'm going to do.
What are you
I'm going
doing?
to start all the problems. No, actually, we're going to get a lot of work done this week. A lot of video content this week. I believe I have a desk set up. So I'm gonna prank call a few of the artists and tell them that they're dropped. No, I'm joking. Totally joking. No,
We're going in a different direction.
No. This week is gonna be super productive. Mapex is always really good at staying innovative and staying creative, and we're gonna highlight some of those things this week and give the people some cool content.
I'm glad it paid off for them. They took a chance on somebody maybe a little bit early and got a windfall.
I'm glad it paid off. Man, it was scary, a little touch and go at one point. I was like, ugh.
Well, thank you, dude. You're great. You're a great dude. Great drummer. Check him out. We'll have some links down below. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out. From the West Barn, signing off.